That joke isn't funny anymore. Available on Amazon and everywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez podcast on the Lions of Liberty podcast network. I'm your host, Lou Perez, and today I'm joined by a friend as well as an editor over at The Blaze, Mr. Matt Himes, everybody.
Hi, Lou. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And for those who have the video, I am very envious of Matt's hat right now. Normally, I think so. Normally, when I do that, when I record, my house is so cold that I end up wearing like a sweater and a beanie. But since my hair is shorter now, I've been not wearing the beanie as much. So I feel like, are you the same? Like when your hair reaches a certain length, the beanie kind of comes on?
Yeah. It's always on. I mean, unless it gets too hot. But yeah, it's good to keep it under control. I probably need a haircut. It's like, I mean, I guess I still have enough hair that it doesn't look too bad. It's not like the balding ponytail yet. But
Uh-huh.
but I mean, I've always been wearing a beanie for warmth because I'm somebody who likes to wear shorts a lot for some reason. I'm like those, you see those college kids in like Michigan walking across the quad in February wearing a puffer jacket and shorts.
Yeah.
I used to be kind of a perma shorts guy, especially because I get hot really easily, especially here in LA. So I find that if you wear shorts and you just put a hat on top, that takes care of the keeps you warmer without, at least for me, without overheating.
Yeah. That was
I got
definitely my
I got a lot of
look
beanies.
too. Yeah, that was my look too. And it's something too where the one accessory that's always missing is the skateboard. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
It seems
I never skateboarded. My brother skateboarded,
Mhm.
and I get that. Yeah. It's like they go together.
Yeah. I never skateboarded. I rollerbladed as a kid, but I did it in, the sport of hockey, so, like, roller hockey and a
Oh,
rollerblader.
man.
So I never did, like, I never did sick jumps or anything like that. But it's one of those skills where when people see how I roll, they're like, "Oh my god, you're really good." And
Yeah.
I think I find like, there's sort of this whole kind of ecosystem, or I don't know if it's like a genre or niche or whatever. It's just old people doing cool things that you wouldn't expect. Like there's like, oh, here's like this 60-year-old guy doing pop and lock breakdancing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because when he was, 20, he grew up breakdancing and he still has like those skills. They might have lessened a little bit. But there's a bunch of videos I've watched of like, here's my dad shredding on the guitar. That's kind of like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
bald, fat dad, playing Eruption by like Van Halen. And people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm wondering, is it, I mean, I would imagine that older people were always doing this like sort of stuff, but like what? Nobody was recording it and putting it out there, sharing it. Is that what the deal is?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think a lot of people have hidden talents, and, it's funny, I saw a video. There's this woman, this famous, bass player. She was a session player. I think she was part of the Wrecking Crew or something. Her name's
Oh yeah,
Carol something. She just looks like a white lady, like a, 70-something white lady, but she was on all these recordings, and there's a scene of her trying to, I guess they're doing a documentary she wants to get into. I think it's Electric Ladyland Studio or one of the famous studios where she did all this work. And, maybe they should have tried to prepare and not just show up unannounced, but it's clear they don't recognize her, and she
yeah,
looks just like some lame tourist or something,
right.
So, I mean, I love when people's looks don't match their skills when they have these, like, really these hidden talents.
Yeah, her name's Carol Kay.
Yeah,
and,
okay, so right, yeah, and
and I don't know if she's the one who came up with the opening from My Girl.
oh,
Boom,
I
boom,
love that,
boom,
yeah,
boom, boom, boom.
yeah, I bet she
But, yeah, she's on, like,
mhm,
uh, so many records, and, yeah, with people like that, like the hidden talents, and then also, like, uh, the surprise that, like, not looking as if you should be able to do this,
yeah,
this, that, or the other thing. There's there's a whole, again, like, genre of videos, of reaction videos that I've watched on YouTube, and after a while, it just becomes, they're basically like, here's a young black guy watching The Righteous Brothers for the first time,
oh, yeah, yeah,
like, his reaction to it,
mhm,
and part of me, like, I love watching younger people, or just people in general experience something for the first time that I think is so powerful,
oh, yeah,
listening to, the Righteous Brothers sing Unchained Melody. That's only, I think, one of the Righteous Brothers sings it, but, like, it's such a powerful song. It's amazing that there's a young person that's experiencing in real time that you get to watch, but when it comes to actually, like, what are they doing? Like, most of these reaction videos are there's absolutely no content being
yeah,
made, no originality. It's mostly like, a guy
yeah,
would, you'll be a few seconds in, and like, "Oh,
it's so generic.
what?
It could be for anything. Yeah,
Whoa!" It's
people get mi but there's a whole genre where people get millions of views or even or the one where it's like, a guy just reacts to people doing weird stuff. It's like a series of clips of people doing weird stuff, and it cuts back to the poster as if he or she is just kinda watching it, and, like
yeah,
and all they have to do is, like, sort of Jim from The Office faces,
yeah,
and that's all they add, and they build whole brands on that. Hey, I guess there's no accounting for taste. But, the hidden that reminds me of the hidden talents and skating and rollerblading. That is impressive to be able to people make fun of rollerblading, I guess, when you're doing it shirtless, just, like, down the boardwalk or something, but as a sort of like in hockey or something,
yeah,
uh, that's because it's if you can do that, I assume you can ice skate,
yeah,
and ice skating is very impressive, and, you know, I was talking about this on The Office, Steve Carell, his or David his character, Michael Scott does a it emerges that he can play hockey,
mhm.
because I think Carell actually plays hockey and he can
I think he
skate.
was a goalie, in
Yeah.
college.
He looks really good. I can't remember how it figured into the story, and my friend objected. He said, that's just Carell showing off. It completely is not true to the character of Michael." And I said, "No," and I tried to retcon, and I said, "No." I said, "Look, I think Michael was growing up, and he was socially awkward, didn't have a lot of friends, but he liked hockey. Um, so his parents built him or like he had a pond in back of his house that would freeze, and he would just kind of play hockey by himself and get really good, and sort of narrate these play by plays,
Mhm.
and that's why he's so good at hockey today, despite being a misfit. It was hard to imagine him being a functional part of a hockey team, but
Well,
that's
yeah.
how I explain it.
Yeah, for me, if you're, trying to justify, that decision and making, like, a backstory to it, I'm trying to think, because I think Carell was a goalie.
Yeah,
I don't have
it made him look
anybody to
cool.
fact check it. Yeah. It made him look like if Michael Scott had been a goalie, then I could see where it's like, all right, goalie equipment is expensive. You could easily be a backup goalie and never
Yeah.
really play, but you're still
Or
part of the
actually,
team.
if you're a goalie and you're good at your job, you don't have to really deal with the other team. I mean, I don't know much about hockey, but I assume it's sort of you're an island you're just there defending the goal, and
Yeah.
you can be a little eccentric as long as you stop the pucks.
Yeah.
I don't but it's good to have good I mean, that character, I like that character because he is good. They try to make it a little believable. They show that he is in his own way a good salesman. There's
Yeah.
this one scene where Tim Meadows has a cameo, and he goes out with I guess he's with Jan or something, and
Yeah, he's with Jan and Tim Meadows, and they go to basically like a Chili's,
yeah,
and they're
and it
spending
seems like
all
it
this
just
time together.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, like hours and hours just drinking and eating, and you're like, "What the hell is going on?" And then by the end of the episode, Michael lands this huge deal,
yeah,
Jan, gives him a big old smooch.
Yeah, it's like it's just it happens. It's what he's always kind of trying to justify. This is how you have to be to make sales. It usually doesn't work, but occasionally he finds the right person. This Tim and him are vibing, and it's the same when he meets his girlfriend in later seasons,
Yeah,
Holly.
yeah, yeah,
They just you think, "Oh, this is gonna go really bad because he's doing his corny jokes, and then suddenly she kind of meets him halfway and responds the same way. They're like these 2 scene partners, and you're like, "Oh, of course. Everyone has someone to hit it off."
yeah.
So
In the original Office, they did a really great thing with David Brandt, where uh, he ends up, going on a date. I think is it the Christmas special? I think it might be the Christmas special. Um, ends up like landing, like having a date that it goes really well, and you're like, oh, that's really nice, even though this guy's been, kind of the
oh,
biggest fuck
yeah.
up and just cringeworthy worthy character. Well, one thing I want to say when you brought up ice skating, so uh, yeah, I grew up rollerblading and playing ice hockey. I stopped playing ice hockey. I think I was 17. Stopped playing it in high school, and then I hadn't skated for a really long time. And then over the winter, we were bringing our son. I'm bringing my son to lessons to skate, learn how to ice skate, and it gave me the opportunity to like lace him up again. And I bought like new skates, and for one, they hurt my feet so bad because
Mm,
my feet are
yeah.
they're not broken in. But as I hit the ice and I start skating, I forgot just how fucking hard ice skating is. Like it's a real it's a skill that takes a long time to build up. And I mean, there's stuff that I can't do now just because I haven't been skating in forever. And I think it's really helpful as a parent to kind of be doing something, like, kind of relearning or reminding yourself what it was like to learn this stuff as your kid is learning it, uh, because
Oh, yeah.
I definitely do I don't wanna be I'm not one of those parents who's looking to, live out, my, glory days I never had, like, through my son, you know? Um, and I don't wanna be one of those parents who's, like, yelling at him, like, "Why don't you do this?" or "Why don't you do this?" So, kind of understanding how difficult it is to skate, gives me a lot more, empathy or sympathy with him when he's, having a difficult time of it, It's like, yeah, it's freaking hard. It's gonna take a long time.
Yeah. I I, um I don't know how to skate really. I've skated at little parties and stuff, so I can kind of make my way gingerly around, like, I don't have to hug the wall or anything,
Mhm.
but I assume when you're playing hockey, your skating is such second nature, you might as well be playing soccer at that point, like, you just know how to get to where you need to get to. Um, but I agree. I My son plays tennis. All my kids started playing tennis, in their, like, 3 or 4, and I'd never played really. I'd picked up a racket before, but I didn't know how, and after a couple years of taking them to lessons, thought, "You know what? I should learn. Why not?" It's very frustrating to try to learn tennis in your mid-40s,
I'm
late
sure, I
40s,
bet, yeah.
but I still play, and I've kinda gotten to the I mean, I had a love-hate relationship with it for years, and I was like, "This is the only exercise that I feel worse after than I do before," because it's not people beating you with an honest point, it's just all the unforced errors that you make, all the just hitting the ball out, hitting it into the net, or just flubbing easy shots, and it's really it really teaches you to keep your emotions in check.
Mm.
'Cause, yeah, I'm not super competitive, like, "You can't beat me," but when it comes to me, like, making mistakes, you know, can be really harsh on myself and just like, "What why the fuck did you do that, you idiot?" And you don't wanna be cursing on the court. But, yeah, it really my son is better than I am now, he's 11, he plays in tournaments. If I can beat him, it's because he's so much shorter than I am, but he's just so consistent, and so when I watch him play, I'm pretty I mean, tennis is great because 'cause you're not allowed to cheer and you're not allowed
Oh,
to
really?
coach. Yeah, you can't be on the court, so it's like the kids do it I mean, obviously, in the higher level, you have line judges, but when it's like junior tournaments, they pretty much police themselves in terms of calling a ball out or whatever, and, which is good to teach them to manage it. I mean, cheating is rampant, but I always tell my son, just you don't let it get so close that you're depending on one call. Um, but they have judges that come around every so often. But yeah, when I watch him, see my wife, she can barely stand to watch him because it's funny, she wasn't at all into sports growing up, and neither was I. I did sports, but it was more like fitness. I did wrestling and running, the sports you didn't have to try out for.
Mm. Oh, with wrestling, it's basically like, how much do you weigh? Okay, we need a guy who's
Yeah,
X
yeah,
amount.
and, it doesn't if you have a deeper bench, then you just got sort of, I guess, cannon fodder or mat fodder for practice for the, varsity guys to throw around. It's good exercise. I mean, I was never that good at it. I'm glad I did it, but, I never played like, I did cross country, which I I remember that's a fall sport, and all it is you run, a cross country race is 3 it's like 3.1 miles, different courses, I guess, but other than that, there's only so much you can practice for cross
Right.
country. It's also variations of running, and I
Mhm.
used to go out to practice, I'd see the soccer players practicing, and I just think, "Why didn't I learn like a game, a sport, something where that's fun?" And now I play tennis instead of running. I used to run a lot. Now I just play tennis and I lift weights. But my wife was when our first my daughter's 17 now, and, when you have little kids, you just get them in they do soccer just to have something to do. Let's try it out." And I remember my wife saying, "Well, she's not gonna be an athlete." And she was 2, and I was just like, "Oh, don't pigeonhole her, you never know." And it turned out she was coordinated. She was good and she liked it, so we kept doing soccer, and then she got into club soccer. And my wife, she went from being not really into sports to becoming basically a soccer hooligan, and, like, she's gotten in trouble for with the refs. She, like, knows all the intra-league gossip. "Oh, wait, we're playing them? Wait, why aren't they playing that girl now?" You
Uh-huh.
know, she'll when I go to the games, she'll, ask me for updates, and then it's just like, "Ah, never mind," and she starts talking to one of the other moms who are there because I don't give her enough information.
Mhm.
What how's she looking?" I'm like, I don't yeah, she's doing well. She's running fast and so, you know and I think it's great that she takes an interest, but sometimes I get irritated because I'm like, um, "You've never done this, so you need to give a little bit of an allowance for what it's like to put your" especially tennis, because it's
Yeah.
such a lonely sport. Singles, you're just out there by yourself, and having played or playing myself, I know that feeling of yeah, you're just it's easy to spiral,
Mm.
and hard to come back, and I tell my son, "You ideally, you wanna be able to reset after every point, like 1 point at a time, because all that matters is the point you're in." I mean, if it's 0-40 and the guy's 1 point away from beating you, it doesn't you can come back if you just take it 1 point at a time, and
Mm.
I've blown, like, incredible leads, and you're just like, "Alright, I've almost got this put away, I can finish," and then it's like they keep winning, and you're like, "Wait, how is this happening?" Anyway, so I yeah, I love my daughter, my 17-year-old paid me a sort of ambiguous compliment. She said, "I like about you, dad, you're not afraid you try a lot of things, you're not afraid to look really bad. You try a lot of things that you're bad at." And she's like, "No offense." I said, "No, no, I that's exactly what I do." I mean, sometimes I feel like I have too many hobbies, but yeah, I like to keep doing stuff.
I think
Um
that yeah, I think that's really important. Like, when I went, when I was going back and skating and, uh, I'd be on the rink and see, like, older kids who looked terrible on the ice or, like, even adults, and I'm like, "Man, you gotta have, like, some balls to get on the ice, not even
Mhm.
being able to skate, especially at, like, at an older age." So, um, part of me is like, that's really great, but also I'm happy that I did at least a little bit of the work earlier on so I don't look like that,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
oh, sure. No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. You want to have pride that kinda motivates you,
Yeah.
but not so much pride that it keeps you from trying at all.
Yeah,
Um
one thing that came back to me and, me talking about I don't wanna be the type of dad who, tries to live out his, sports fantasies through his sons, but after one of the, skating lessons, there was a Catholic high school, was playing, excuse me, one of our local Catholic high schools had a game in on the other rink, and so we went over there, and it turns out, one of our neighbors, his son was the goalie, and, he and I were talking, and, like, the best kid on his son's team was injured, he was out, and it was having a very noticeable impact on the game. They're getting fucking trounced, like, 3 I think they were down, like,
Mhm.
3-0, and watching it, I had all these feelings coming back of, like, when I used to I used to play, and I started telling him I started telling him, like, "These fucking guys, they gotta start hitting," Like, "You're down
Mhm.
3, you gotta fucking get physical with these guys." Um, and I was like, "Where the hell did this come from?" And then I remember when I was, playing, I was a lot tougher as a player, as a younger man than I think I am as an adult. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
got
watching your kids get tossed or watching, like, the
oh,
kids get it's yeah, yeah, I get the same way. I'm like,
yeah,
even with tennis, it's kind of irrational because it's obviously not a real contact sport, but
yeah,
a lot of these little kids are like, 11-year-old boys. They do this, they go, "Yeah, come on!" Like,
yeah,
when they score a point, which is it's allowed, it's fine. My son is much more stoic, but
yeah,
when they do that, I'm just like, "Come on, dude, you gotta beat this twerp."
yeah,
Like, I get so annoyed in this rage, and when it's something like yeah, when it's something like, soccer and it's more physical because my son plays soccer too, and yeah, I agree. It's you really you can feel that tribal, primal, "We gotta kill these guys," "Don't let
yeah,
them
and
they're
when I
just disrespecting us in our house."
yeah, when I played, I forget if it was, like, bantam or midget, I forget what the ages were, and I played in high school, like, I used to hit a lot. Like, I got suspended one game. It was a really stupid move on my part. I was going at it with a guy on the boards, and, the referee was there, and I fucking headbutted the guy,
Oh my god.
which is a pretty stupid thing to do because we're both wearing helmets, you
Yeah.
know? But but, it's a I guess it's a fun little, factoid about me to talk about later in life in my 40s. But it's also a, sort of it's like, oh, that one incident tells me about a little more about the kid I was, at the time. And there was this one game we were playing, what was it, Greater New York. And for anybody out there, if anybody's a listener, used to play for Greater New York, and you're around 43 or thereabouts. I played for a team called Green Machine, and I was uh, right in front of my team on the boards, and a guy hit me from behind. No call was made, and I got up off the ice, and I did it was as I got up off the ice, I had my stick and I swung it over my head,
Oh, well,
and
that's really bad, right?
yeah, and cracked the dude on the neck and knocked him down. Right? Nobody saw that. He saw it though, and I did, like, kind of a dirty, I get that was dirty, and then I kinda did the dirty thing where I got on on my bench and went right behind the guys on my bench, and he was, like, trying to come at me and stuff. I forget if he would there was a penalty there. I don't know how the thing ended,
But
but
it's
at but the
no
net
most oh, sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
no, no, go ahead. So
Yeah, just I was wondering, is it like there's no snitching? It's like prison if they don't if no one sees it, no one's gonna complain to
yeah,
the
I
ref.
mean, if none of the linesmen or the ref
Yeah.
sees it, I mean, what's gonna happen? I mean, the headbutting incident I did right in front of one of the refs, which was really stupid. But, it's sort of I had this situation where I just did this, right? And now the game's over. Now I gotta, like, get from wherever get from the rink to my car, and at the time, what a fucking guy this kid I was. I used to carry like a stick, like kind of a whacking stick,
Oh, I love it.
like a
Yeah.
shillelagh.
Yeah, walking
Uh,
tall, beat
yeah,
with
yeah.
Buster.
And so I remember carrying my bag and having that, sort of in my hand, ready to for
Oh,
something to happen. Thankfully, nothing happened. And then later in the season, it's like, oh shit, we got to play these fucking guys again. And I think it was at their home rink, and I went into that thinking like, "Oh, this guy's gonna, try to get retribution." It turns out he didn't, and I think I ended up scoring like 2 goals, something like that. So, th like, even in the, with sports, sort of issues of, like, vengeance and
Mhm.
justice and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like so much of this stuff just lives and dies on the playing field. It doesn't carry over
Yeah.
into the parking lot. It doesn't carry over into a future game. Um, so yeah, there's a part of me that's like, uh, yeah, that kid, I shouldn't have done that, but also, that was kind of fun. Like, oh,
Yeah. I
that must have been a lot of fun for me at the time. Yeah.
It makes sense. If you're not feeling those emotions, you're sort of probably holding back something in your
Yeah.
performance. It's just part of life. I think it's you need to just learn how to manage them. I guess. I've watched a lot of sports. My kid used to play baseball, which was really fun. Really fun here in the Palisades. They got a great field. It feels a lot of these sports. It's just the traveling. It just does not feel like a community old fashioned thing. It's like you go out, drive an hour and play a team you never heard of. But in the Palisades, it's like this league where and the fields were fine in the fire. They didn't get burned. It's this league where it's like 10 teams and it's all local. Some of the coaches were played when they were kids and you just play each other and everyone knows each other. And then the kids, it's a lot of gossip. Like, yeah, well, I hear the Orioles are really good this year. Dude, if we beat the Orioles, we've got it made. So that's really funny. And all the games are every weekend. So you see all the same people. Um, but watching baseball, that's one of my favorites to watch, and it's very intense because every kid sort of gets the pressure. Every kid gets their time in the spotlight, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how are they?
How
It's
do how
two
they
out.
deal
It's
with it?
two outs. He's the last guy. If he gets out, the game's over. How does he deal with that pressure? I'd be pissing my pants. And
Yeah.
you're like a 9-year watching an 8-year-old just kinda shrug and do it, and sometimes you get these heartwarming, like, Rudy or Bad News Bears moments, like,
Yeah.
um,
This yeah, well, so I have a couple of those. So, one, my oldest, is doing T-ball, he's doing,
yeah,
and, T-ball, you don't keep score and shit.
right.
And there was this, after one of the games, one of the little boys on the other team, like, kinda came over and was talking, um, to, like, one of the other adults, and you're saying like, "Oh, we played, each other," and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's nice," and then he said, "Yeah, we won," and a part of me was like, "What
Yeah,
do you mean you won?" Like,
they
it's like,
they do that a lot, I
yeah, it's
noticed
like,
it,
"What do you
yeah,
mean you won?" It's
yeah,
like, yeah, I for a second there, I felt like I was kind of like a gambler, and it's like, what do you mean you won?" 'Cause I would've bet money on this game. But when I played Little League, so we were in Woodside, Queens. I think the one of the leagues that we were in was, St. Joe's. St. Joe's had a baseball league, and we had a kid on our team. We were the Yankees, and the championship game was against the Red Sox. Um, and uh, one of the kids on our team was this kid Lamont, who, this poor kid couldn't touch the ball. He never had one hit all season, and then comes up to that championship game, and there's a lot on the line,
mhm.
and it's like, "Oh, Lamont's up." We're at the bottom of the order, and it's like, "Oh, this is okay, I guess this is gonna be over." And the dude hit his first single in that moment, in that,
Oh, yeah,
that so important moment. And we freaked out. We were going nuts. I mean, we felt like we had won it just with that. And then we actually won the, championship. I wonder, this is the first time I've thought about Lamont in a really long
yeah,
time.
you should look
Lam
him up, have him on the
Lamont, if you're out there,
yeah.
Louis Perez, we were in Woodside, we played we were in the Yankees together. I know your dad was at the game, he was stoked for you as well. Hit me up, let me know if you're around.
You know, we had something similar a couple years ago on our team, and with the added sort of montage effect, the one coach, one of the dads would work with this kid one-on-one after practice to, like, try to get his eye-hand coordination, and then he, at a crucial moment, hit a single. Probably the only hit he got all season, so I was like, "This is so cinematic." You just kinda do the montage of them practicing the hits over the past few weeks, and then he actually has his moment. That's what that's when I watch soccer, I just think, "Oh, baseball is so much more suspenseful and cinematic
Mhm,
because of the rhythm of it." And soccer, I'm often just kinda like, "Oh, it's just this kind of blob of people." I mean, good soccer is when it's played at a high level. My daughter is a sophomore, she plays, and it looks pretty polished, they're passing and all that, but, when you start out, the kids are just running after each other in
oh,
a
yeah.
big blob, but, I mean, your kids are probably younger than they are younger than mine.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They're like in their they're
5
like
and 3. Yeah, yeah,
5 and 3. It's a boy and a girl, I guess, or
2 boys, 2
2
boys.
boys, okay.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest of
For
3 girls.
now, for now.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Hey,
see what happens.
I, yeah, we have 2 girls and a boy, and it is kinda cool, getting one of each,
Mm,
experiencing both. I was sort of when I knew we were having a 3rd, I was just kinda like, it's okay if it's" I was never like, "Oh, I need to have a boy." But when I
mhm.
got a boy, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
Because I was like, "Hey, 3rd," because people are always like, "Oh, bet you're waiting for a boy, huh?" And my wife's walking around with the 3rd one in her belly, and I'm like, "Yeah, it would be nice," but I was never someone who, like, of waiting to, you know, uh, get the Yankees onesie or something and
You're not Chinese,
yeah,
right? Well, where
yeah, yeah.
you're
No,
really
that's right.
wishing for it.
Yeah. But, I would've been ha 3 girls would have made for good Christmas cards. But yeah, I was psyched having a boy, and they really are, different. And you've experienced this already, like, watching your son, it really does at least for me, it really does connect. It makes you think of yourself as a young man or as a kid, a little bit more than when you have a girl,
Yeah.
I'm just, like, thinking of the sa I'm thinking of the I mean, I feel like my son is so much more self-assured and cooler than I was, probably because I was the oldest. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. Because 'cause he's got 2 being the 3rd kid and you got 2 older sisters, my brother-in-law is like that, and he's just very sort of confident, and he's been babied, as a kid and,
Uh-huh.
like, teased a little bit too, but, it really does give you this sort of golden child aura, I think, in many cases, and my son's just very, like, he just, likes talk he's like the mayor of he likes talking to people and he's does a lot of sports, but he's not cocky. He's worried about his height because 'cause we're a short family. I'm short, my wife is short. Now
Are you short? How old are you? How old are you? How tall are you?
well, I'm not I mean, I'm 5'8" maybe.
5'8"?
Is that
Okay.
short? What are you, like, 6'1"?
5'10", man.
Okay,
But
that's
but
I mean,
but with the ego. My
yeah.
ego, though.
I've never really it's never really bothered me. I was too dumb to even think it like, when it throughout my life, and, my son is because he's such a sporty guy, he's worried about it. He wants to be tall. All the tennis players now, it's like a power game like
Oh,
everything
yeah.
else. They're all, like, tall and they work out but,
Just
my
thinking about, like, poor was it Michael Chang? Like, just a
oh,
short,
yeah, Michael
professional
Chang.
tennis.
Yeah, his kid was at a tournament I was at. Michael Chang is I never used to follow tennis, but he's, like, the youngest winner, I think, of a major. I think he was 17. Is
Wow.
that what I'm thinking of? He was big in the '80s, right? Or the
Yeah, yeah, I
'90s?
think '80s, probably '90s,
I
yeah.
think he won, like, the French Open or something, and he's lives in LA, he has a son who's my son's age and plays in tournaments, he's good, he's still developing, like, he beat my son, but it wasn't the total massacre, but yeah, it's, right, he's like a normal-sized
Yeah,
tennis player,
I
right?
think he's a
Yeah,
normal-sized human, and then, when you're
yeah.
competing against, like, these gigantic Europeans, with the long limbs and stuff. Yeah, I never really g the furthest that I got into tennis was reading, David Foster Wallace. He has an amazing,
Yeah,
essay.
I love him, I read those before I cared about tennis, and, I love reading it kinda makes you wanna care about tennis,
Yeah, yeah,
and now I can go
it
back
was
and read them,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
in,
really
it was, I think it was published in Esquire. It was called String Theory.
well,
And
yeah.
it did something else in his collection of books. It's either Consider the Lobster or a supposedly fun thing I'll never do
Well,
again.
there's a collection out now of his tennis writings, and the
Oh,
title
really?
of it yeah, it's like a green sort of hardback, but, like, without a slipcover, like, sort of like one of those, like, mid-sized hardback, things. It's green cover, it's just says string theory, collects all of his tennis writings.
Oh, shit.
It's
I
really
like
cool. Yeah, I recommend it. I bought it to revisit some of those. Yeah, the one is him following a just sort of like a middling player on the tour, the
yeah,
kinda guy that has to qualify, but he's
he's a pro who's ranked like 150th.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he has a interesting part, he was an accomplished junior tennis player, within reason, and he said, I always thought, I realized, like, I couldn't play, like, I could never beat, like, Agassi or something, but I always had it in the back of my mind that I could hang with them on a court. I could, like, kinda hold my own and keep it
Mhm.
interesting, and then I think he hits with this or I don't remember if he hits with him or just watches him, and he's like, "We're not even playing the same game."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like even this guy who's just not famous and ranked 100 or something, it's a whole different level being a pro. I
Yeah.
wouldn't belong in the same court with him,
Yeah,
but
I absolutely love that essay, but not only the writing, but the insights in that, and you could see it in all other, uh, different facets of life and professions,
yeah. Did you
especially
read
if you know anything about, like, a sport and it's like, being at a bar and the UFC is on, and you have a guy next to you saying, "Oh, why does he just get up?"
yeah. Oh
It's
god.
like, man, yeah,
I'll tell you that
why does
yeah.
he just get up? Yeah, the guy's fighting you know, a a 205 pound, D1 wrestler, a former Olympic wrestler, and BJJ black belt. Why does he just get up? Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Different
Everyone
dynamic.
should try, like, sparring or wrestling or something just to realize how long a minute is.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I remember wrestling, it's like 3 3-minute periods, and you hear all these people yelling, like, "Yeah, come on, dude," and, of course, I'm not processing any of it. I'm just like, "You think it's so easy, you come out here." It's like you're exhausted by that's why boxers, even the best boxers are, like, clinching after like a minute because
Yeah.
it's so exhausting.
And also what strength is too, because, it's one
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
if you go and you throw weights around, it's another
Mhm.
thing to lock up with another man, and
Yeah.
especially if the guy has skill too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a rude
Yeah.
awakening for sure.
I've always been like yeah, I've always, like, been sort of vain about my appearance. I've always been, like, the kinda lifting, like, chiseled guy, but I have relatives it's like, I have a lot of respect for the guys who are just, like they have that sort of farmer strength or something, or just, like, they're big guys, but it's more like a linebacker build. They're not worried about looking toned,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they can just do stuff like lift up I don't know, like a rock or something if you need to move it.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, I have a bit where I talk about how I don't want my kids to be bullies. But if they are gonna be bullies, I want them to only bully kids whose parents I can beat up. And,
Oh, yeah.
it's unfortunate that I happen to live in a town where I don't think that's going to be the case, because there's a lot of, like, not necessarily farm dudes, but a lot of guys who, where wrestling is like one of the bigger sports in town.
Oh, yeah.
And that sort of, and it's like, "Oh, fuck, man, I hope my kids just get along with."
Persians, that's a big wrestling culture. Iran and,
Oh, yeah.
Russia. I grew up in Pennsylvania. It was fairly big there.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, you live in Jersey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I won't say the exact
yeah,
town
that's okay. I don't
because,
wanna dox you, but I mean, sports I read a crazy article, and I think it was New York Magazine about baseball dads. It was like this baseball dad feud. I think it took place in New Jersey where it just kept escalating. Um 'Cause it's just about they both have kids on the same team, it's some kind of rivalry, and it just got into I'll try to find the link and send it to you because it just shows how crazy I mean, in my experience, baseball really does lend itself to the whole, like, living out your dreams, having your kid live out your dreams. Um, at least a lot of the coaches um that I met when playing baseball. We had a great experience and we had great coaches, but I did notice that sometimes it was more about the coach than about the
mm,
team. It was like the personal pride of we need to go all the way this year. It's fine. You want to have goals and ambition, but to me, it should be through the lens of the goal is yes, because if the kids win, they'll want to play more. You want to get them to like
mhm.
the game, and winning is fun. It feels good, but you wanna ideally learn while doing it and of course, deal with disappointment and coming back from disappointment as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well
yeah.
well, in a, as a way to segue, I mean, talk about, uh, coming back from
Mm,
disappointment. That would be an understatement, but, for those of you who don't know, Matt, had the incredible misfortune of losing his home in the, California fires, and he wrote a brilliant piece, that I'll share with everybody, in the New York Post, talking about, what your experience was like, and, I mean, we're some months removed, can you talk about, like, what was it like during the fires and, having a home and having to evacuate and all that stuff?
well, it was, there's been fi we always have fires here in Southern California, and I it's funny, my mom LA is so spread out, people will if they don't live here, people will, Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's 40 miles away," or whatever.
Right.
That was often the case with fires. Every season you have some scares, nothing obviously like this. And I've always, like a lot of people always thought, well, that's for people in Malibu to worry about or people, out in the countryside. Um, so I'm used to like seeing smoke in the horizon and kind of like, oh, are they going to make us evacuate? Actually, I'd never had to evacuate before. I'd been sort of on the edge of the evacuation zone and tossed some things in the car just to be safe, but I never actually had to evacuate, and they usually get the fire out. But I remember that Tuesday that the fire started, I was it's so funny, when you look back, you're just like, all the little gripes you have. If you had any idea what you're about if you think this is a hassle, if you have any idea about the hassle you're about to go through for the next, like, year or 2, you wouldn't be complaining about this because I was just like, I was in a typical, like, not in a bad mood, but just kinda like, "Eh, could be better. I don't know, I don't feel that great," and, I got up, it was January 7th or something, so we had still had Christmas decorations laying around. I'd taken them down, and I was like, we have a storage facility, out in the valley, and I was like, I should you know what? I'm gonna finally take these out to the valley. And, one of those tasks I put off because I don't feel like, "Oh, I got other things to do." But I bit the bullet. I said, "I'm just gonna get this done. It'll feel good to accomplish it." So I drove it out to the valley and then came back, and it was like a 90-minute round trip because of traffic, and so I started ranting to myself about the absurdity of how much stuff I had, "God, what it's so ridiculous. We have stuff that we gotta put in a, we have so much stuff, we gotta rent in an apartment, basically."
Basically, yeah, you're doing like you're living a George Carlin bit.
Yeah, I was actually yeah,
More stuff.
I was thinking about that bit, and I was, like, thinking about that, and I was like, "Yeah, he's right. It plays for your stuff. Isn't it funny how other people's stuff is shit, but yours is stuff?" Um, and I was, complaining about that and then kinda spiraling into my other gripes, and then sort of planning my day and like, "Oh, I gotta get this done, but then I gotta go." And then I looked up and I saw this smoke, black smoke up in the hills because I was on Sunset heading home into the Palisades, saw the smoke, and I thought, "Oh, that looks pretty close. That looks a little unusually close," but I was like, "It's par for the course." Kept going, got home, and then about 20 minutes later, I got a call from my son's school, which is 5 minutes away, which is, "Oh, all the kids we gotta pick up all the kids." And even then, I was like, "Alright," they err on the side of caution, and maybe it's an air quality thing, they like to send the kids home. And when I got there, it was like more sort of palpable panic in the parking lot. People were running to get their kids. It was sort of like the beginning of a disaster movie, kind of. Like,
Mm.
it just felt like it was 1 or 2 notches of panic away from, like, in the movies when you see people, like, crashing their cars into each other, and then that society is starting to collapse. That didn't happen, and the school people were keeping it ordered, and I was just kinda like, "God, am I not freaking out enough about this?"
Hmm.
Um, like, I know fire moves fast, but I really didn't think, I didn't think we were in physical danger. I don't think we were, but I guess people in retrospect were like, "We gotta get home, get our stuff, and get out." And we only live 5 minutes away, so I picked up my son, we were chill. Took us, like, half an hour to get home. what should be a 5-minute journey. We got there, it was hard to even get up into my neighborhood because it's a cul-de-sac and everyone was going the other way in both lanes. I finally followed like a cop car and got in, and I was kinda like even then I was like, you know, this is not gonna burn down. I'm gonna have to put everything back that I take out. At the same
Mm.
time, I don't wanna be that guy that doesn't take it seriously and then it, like, puts his son in jeopardy, and so I just told my son to pack some clothes, and I was thinking about saving some stuff, but I was sort of like, "I don't know what to begin with." You know what? I'm not gonna I had to choose then. So I didn't really grab anything important. I grabbed what I thought were passports and documents. I grabbed the wrong file, so it was just a bunch of old bills, unfortunately.
Oh, shit.
That was like a revelation that came like 2 days later. It was sort of and I just grabbed their dogs. We have a cat who's like an outdoor cat. I don't know where he was. He probably wasn't home. I don't know if he ever what happened to him. He was getting kinda old and cranky. But I got the dogs. My son, my other 2 kids weren't home, and my wife was out of town. So we just my brother-in-law lives in Venice, and by then it was like I was on Sunset. It was traffic was at a standstill. I mean, it just wasn't moving in one direction. People were headed towards town, and I thought, "Well, yeah, that makes sense because if you go the other way, you're headed towards up towards the highlands where the fire started." And that's where people were abandoning their cars, and Steve Gutenberg was out there trying to direct traffic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lives nearby, and he was just, it's funny, I'd been seeing him a lot at the local Starbucks, just every day I'd been seeing him just on the phone or walking around, and he's kinda like a big local Palisadian guy, and I guess he was trying to help sort of direct traffic so that the responders could get access.
And he has all that, experience with
Yeah,
Police Academy.
he's police academy trained,
Yeah. I bet he
so
was also hilarious too while he was
yeah.
doing it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He seems like he's still got it, you know? I should introduce myself to him. But eventually I figured out, oh, if I go the other way, I can move, and then I realized there was a shortcut that I knew of that let me get down to the PCH. Once I got to the PCH, it was fine, and I got to Venice where my brother-in-law lives, and it was as if nothing was happening. That's how sort of spread out LA is. It was like normal life. I went to the Whole Foods to get some stuff, and like my in-laws who also lost their house, they're in the Palisades about a mile from us, they were there, and my sister-in-law was living with them at the time with her toddler. So we were all there, and I was still hoping it wouldn't. I think I remember distinctly saying to my wife, talking about all these fires, and fire prevention, and we always said, like, "Well, if it gets to our house, we'll have bigger problems than just our house. That means the whole neighborhood will go," which is true. The whole neighbor it just burned all the way to the ocean, and, I think a lot of people just thought, "Well, they'll never let this burn." I'm not saying they let it burn, but it's just this false sense of safety, like, there's no way
Right.
that it makes sense up in the hills, these kinda remote, like, areas, but, this is a town. The idea that that would ever burn is ridiculous. If that does happen, then we've got major systemic issues to deal with, and maybe we do. I mean, we still haven't had a I'd love to see a sort of 9/11 commission report about it, just step by what happened? Because there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of, like, well, it's the fire department's fault. There's various things they talk about. All these trucks were out of commission. Fire trucks were out of commission. Brush clearance wasn't good. The fire department was too focused on DEI. We have the first lesbian fire chief. Karen Bass was out of town, of course. The reservoir wasn't filled. The fire hydrants had no pressure. And everyone I speak to, regardless of what they feel about Trump or Karen Bass, they all say, "God, I didn't see a single fire truck."
Mm.
And I think it's because they were doing triage. They were focusing it on the border, trying to contain the fire, and they did. So I don't want to act like I know more, like I'm an expert. For all I know, that's the only choice they had. For all I know, it could have been much worse. As bad as it seems to me that the whole Palisades burned, it was contained, the Palisades and then Altadena. So I don't know, but I'd love someone to explain it to me.
Yeah.
Because maybe if they had more water, they'd be able to save some of the Palisades as well. But yeah, we got complacent because I'm used to we see this apocalyptic imagery all the time with, like, people driving down the 405 with flames on either side, and it always somehow ends up okay. I mean, at least not okay, people's houses burned down and they're not okay, but for the rest of us, it's, like, so remote, you're like, "Well, it's not gonna happen here," and it did. So, I guess I was, yeah, I guess it was sort of shock, you know? It's it hit my wife harder, I think, than it hit me because she works a lot, she has a great job, she's very busy, but she's also very into the home, and she's the one who kind of worked with our architect. Like, it was a house we bought, and then in 2017, we stripped it down to the studs and sort of we didn't change the footprint, but we rebuilt it. We turned the garage into, like, a living room, den, and various other things, and, so I
Yeah,
basically just
you made it a home, a really
yeah, and
yeah, your own thing.
I deferred to her. I was like, you know what you" of course, I complained after it was done. I was like, "Wait, why don't we have this?" But when she was doing it, I trust her taste, and so she furnished it and all that, and she loves entertaining, and, she's the oldest of 5 kids, and she grew up in the Palisades. Her father's an oceanographer at USC. Her mother used to teach Latin, I think, at the school that my kids go to, the St. Matthew's. Um, so they bought this house in 1976, back when the Palisades was not an up and coming community. It was just like a sort of a sleepy small town feel to it. And there's still a remnant of that. There's like a lot of shishi boutiques and stuff, but there's still sort of like the local barber shop with the gruff old guy in a white barber's
Is that where you
smock.
go? Is that where you go to get your hair
No, I don't. I get a salon cut. Um, no, I with this my wife well, during the pandemic, this girl that cut my wife's hair would come to our house and cut everybody's hair, at once, all the kids and me. So I got in the habit of going to her, and she compliments me, so, I like that vein. But, yeah, uh yeah, so for her, it was I think it hit her harder, like, because it was like we had these 2 home bases. My in-laws' house, and, in our house, we'd always host in fact, I was kinda griping up this fall, it felt like we hosted every week a big gathering. It was, like, my son's birthday, then it was, like, my in-laws' anniversary, then it was Thanksgiving. So, she loves doing these big gatherings, and it's a big family. She's got 4 siblings, I guess all of them but 1 live in the area. And there's a lot of cousins now. We had the first kids, but now there's a lot of cousins, a lot of kids running around, so it's fun. I tend to be an introvert, so after a while, I just kinda retire to the, bedroom and read or look at my phone, but I appreciate it in principle, and so that was really hard for her, and for me, yeah, obviously, I'm attached to it as well, but I recall that one of my biggest problems was get before this happened was, like, I have too much stuff. I gotta
Mhm.
get rid of this stuff. I had, like I think I lost maybe 1,200 books,
Wow.
that I just accumulated. I'd become a compulsive, like, used bookstore, go to used bookstores and I mean, I do love reading, but I had way more books that I hadn't read,
Oh,
which
yeah. Oh,
well,
I
that's I mean,
totally have that right now.
it makes
Yeah.
sense. That's what Umberto Eco talks about it. It's like, you wanna have it's sort of like there as a goad to remind you of how much you haven't read and to inspire you to read. I realize now maybe just taking a picture of a book or writing it down is another way to say that you wanna read it eventually as opposed to actually having it, but
Take a selfie with
yeah, but the
a book.
rush yeah, just take a selfie with
I have, behind me is a custom made, bookcase, that I absolutely love, but the rest of my home office, my study, whatever, there's just piles of shit everywhere.
yeah,
Not my human shit, but
yeah, not
you know what I
literal.
mean? You know,
Sure.
other people, as
Other
Carlin
it's
says,
shit stuff.
other people's stuff is shit.
Right.
Yeah, so I have, like, just all these books where I'm like I just wanna get I kinda wanna get rid of stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be as, radical as you are
Yeah,
and have
but
Mother Nature come
it
and take it all away. No, but with, when it came time to, you said, like, you were looking for stuff to save, and,
yeah,
it's,
I just
it's
didn't.
it's so wickedly, like, it's not funny at all that, you grab the bills instead of, like, the
Oh,
bad
no, I
stuff.
mean, there
But
is a lot of humor in it.
if you were writing it, like, that's
Oh, yeah.
exactly the way you would
No, it's
write.
it is humorous, I do believe in, like, lessons from the value of suffering and whatnot, and lessons, and almost as if this is like a reminder not to. I always did feel like, God, I have this acquisitiveness. I'm too, like, much of a shopaholic, mostly with books, but also, I love the gadget, anything I can get into. When I started, like, mics, I was like, oh, nothing I love more than researching, like, what's the best podcast mic? Or what's the best, whatever you call it, the things that the focus, right? The sort of things that goes between the computer and the mic, like the little adapter or whatever. I love reading those lists and researching a purchase, and it
Mhm.
can be really small, even just like like coat hangers. You go on NewYorkMag.com, the strategist, they've got people recommending coat hangers.
Yeah.
So I've been haunted by this feeling like you need to take a vow of poverty or something, man. You collect too much stuff because I love books, but it was to the point where I couldn't find anything.
Mhm.
They're all in boxes. I had nice shelves like behind you, but that wasn't enough. And, I bought more shelves, and they were kinda, like, in every place, and my family was tolerant of it. And I like being surrounded by books, but I was coming up with elaborate plans to, like, "Okay, I need to get rid of some of these books," but, uh, one of the things I'd like to do when I had free time was I thought of it as processing. Like, I would take a book, s let's take a book that maybe you're like, "I don't need to keep this forever. I just need to get something out of it." So, I'd read it or skim it until I felt like I got enough out of it. And then I could, "Okay, I'm gonna discard that." And I felt really productive,
Mhm.
uh, and then I was just coming up with I remember seeing an ad for a scanner on Instagram, like, all Instagram ads that looked really good. It was like a flatbed scanner, but cheap, and I was like, "Yeah, I could just scan some of these books that I just want for information. I could just scan them and blah, blah, blah." And coming up with all these plans, and then next thing you know, they're all gone in one fell swoop. I mean, I had so much overflow. I had like 700 books. I still do in a storage facility.
There was probably a point where when the fire was like, "Oh, come on, man, we can't
Yeah, no,
it's making us burn all these like, there's still more
I
fucking
imagine
books to
I
burn?"
it is it's true. I imagined that. I was like, God, it's so much.
Anthropomorphic
It's yeah,
fire.
it's so much.
Ah,
It's so much work. I tried because I can remember these books, and I tried to imagine. God, it had to burn, and our house burned to the ground like everyone else's, and I was just like, think of all the individual stuff that the fire had to burn. It's just
yeah,
like it's like if you're doing it yourself, it would be such an exhausting task, and the fire.
yeah.
Yeah, I can anthropomorphize the fire. I mean, so, yeah, I didn't you know what? I didn't really choose anything because first of all, I was in denial. It's like, "It's not gonna happen. I don't wanna put anything back." And then it was kind of this feeling like, "Well, if I choose one thing, then that opens up a whole can of worms, so why didn't you choose this?" Uh, if you d what if I just choose too much of my own stuff and not, like, my wife's stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
I should have gone for the jewelry. I didn't think to. And, a lot of that just melts. It was a lot of turquoise, and that just kinda melts, and it was upstairs, and upstairs is hotter, I guess. I went back through it. We were able to get in, and I mean, I found it kinda depressing. It was kind of interesting. I had put on a hazmat suit, and I was just going through, and goggles, and I was going through it with, like a shovel, a sieve, and,
Mhm.
looking for my wife's jewelry, and, like, you could kinda with the floor plan of the house, but with a two-story house, it's like everything just collapses on itself.
Yeah.
So I could see recognizable stuff, like a leather those Leatherman tools?
Yeah, yeah.
I had one of those. I didn't try to clean I don't think it would've worked still, but it was recognizable. It was all, like, burnt, but it was in the same shape. With our kids doing sports, we have a lot of metal water bottles, and those all survived. Um, and I did find some, like, charred pages of books, which is
Mm,
kind of interesting. It's like doing the tarot or I Ching or something, just reading these passages. But for the most part, you just encounter the same stuff over and over, stuff that you figure, like, this must be some kind of, like, frame or what, just internal stuff that you never saw because it's part of the structure of the building and, like, weird melted stuff, so it's not it gets tedious because it's not recognizable. It is kind of, f oh, that wow, I was hoping to find I had some, like, old Catholic, stuff, nothing valuable, but just, like, kind of, just stuff I get on eBay. I was hoping for, like, some kind of miraculous moment where it's like, "Oh my god, wow, the crucifix, it's perfectly preserved." That didn't happen.
yeah.
Although our local Catholic church, I guess the tabernacle where the Eucharist is it all burnt down, but that somehow was safe. So they kinda chalked that up to some kind of divine intervention. But I did that a couple different times. I went back, and it's just really hot and sweaty work because 'cause you're in this hazmat suit. Because I just wanted who knows what kind of shit is in the ground. And then they have this volunteer group of guys, sort of evangelical guys from the South. It's what they do is they come help people dig out, like, look for stuff. So my wife was like, "You should do it one more time. They're volunteering. It's free." So I was like, "All right, fine." And these guys, I mean, I felt bad for them after a while. I was like, I think we've done it." Like, they didn't really find anything, but they were willing to just keep. They probably would have done it all day, and I was getting tired after like 2 hours. I was like, "Yeah, thanks, guys." And they're nice evangelical Southern gentlemen. They're like, "Do you mind if we pray for you?" And at the end, we got around in a circle, and
You're like, "How much does it cost?
yeah,
How
yeah. It's like, come on,
does
man.
my insurance cover that?" Yeah.
Yeah, does California Fair Plan? So, uh, you know, but as far as the lesson goes, it's kinda like no one was hurt or killed. I mean, that I know, blessedly, very few people at all were hurt or killed. It was like one guy just stayed in Malibu, he wouldn't leave, sort of eccentric guy. I think he was drunk. He died, and I think maybe there was a woman who was disabled and couldn't get out or, but for the most part, it's just about property, which I hate saying, "Oh, it's just stuff," because obviously it's important. But for me, I was like, "All right, this is sort of like a training wheels trial by fire in a way because it's devastating and it's very inconvenient and humbling, but it's not, it's you can deal with it, as opposed to some kind of, death or something." So I kinda tried to look at it like that, but, uh and we're also lucky enough that my wife's high school friend, um, has a place in the Hollywood Hills near the Scientology Center, which she was already sort of Airbnb-ing, because she has a place in New York and she was spending more time there. And so she started renting it to us month to month. And, the bright side of it was, "Oh, that's cool. I get to experience this side of LA I've never really lived in before." Um, because when you're in the Palisades, everything on the other side of the 405 just might as well be another country. You
Yeah.
rarely go there. And so to be in Hollywood, it was a lot more urban than I'm used to. A lot more eccentrics, homeless, sort of like Hollywood club people. Or because I usually had to go through the Sunset Strip to get my kids to school, and the morning commute usually took about an hour, which I got used to. At first I was like, "What?" Because I used to bitch about a 20 minutes in traffic.
Sure.
And I just kinda got used to it, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do this." My benchmark used to be a half an hour. It's, half an hour is a reasonable time to get somewhere. Anything over that, then it's time to start, like, complaining and now it became sort of like an hour. I was like, "All right, it's under an hour, that's not bad." So, so that was kind of a lesson. It was fun to see the East Side. It was a cool place, you know, um just big enough for us. I mean, she doesn't have any kids, it's just her and her boyfriend, but it's just big enough for us and great, good view of the city, like the classic, like, glittering lights of LA, you know, and, did that for a few months, and then we found this place in Brentwood, this, long-term a furnished long-term rental. It's really great. We don't have to buy a bunch of furniture at once, and,
I know
So
now you're I know you're, looking to rebuild and,
yeah, we are. I just met the guy, the architect. Um, I guess, again, my wife is spearheading it. That's one of those things I'm like, "Should I be more active? Does she want me to, like, be more active in it?" Like, I'm willing to do whatever errands she wants, but in terms of, like, what it should look like, I just know her opinions are so
mhm.
formed that I really don't think she wants my input.
I
Maybe
do want yeah, I mean, um, I wonder what, what will be, like, the first books that you bring back to the new place.
well,
I mean,
I
you got, like, what, under, like, almost 2 years before if all goes well? If
oh,
it's
yeah, yeah, so we're doing a lot of people were doing this prefab housing, which I guess has come a long way. I mean, at least in their sales pitch, they're like, "This isn't your grandmother's prefab housing. This isn't trailers. This is the high-end stuff," computer printers and stuff. They assemble it, or they construct it offsite and then assemble it on-site. I'm not sure how much cheaper or how much more efficient it is. A little bit enough to be worth doing. Like they call conventional building, I think they call it stick building, meaning you just put everything
right,
together like the old-fashioned way, and this is like they have models, working starting models that you can start with and then modify and customize, and like I said, we have plans from 2017, so we're using those. Well, we're actually just taking the opportunity to fix things that we didn't like about that we ended up kind of wanting to change about the old place, so making the best of it in that way. Um,
are the material like, are the are the materials going to be different? Like, even if it is made, offsite and
no,
it's shipped there?
it's well, no, because our the rebuild in 2017 was like the original house was from 1961, I think. It had these wood shingles on the roof, which we were allowed to keep, not that they were special or anything, but you could never do that today because of the fire hazard.
Mm,
Um, and nowadays, at least in my experience, when you build something, everything's got the electrical. It's all these like really sensitive outlets. If you plug too many things in, it shuts off,
right.
and you gotta. And supposedly everything's kind of modern and fire retardant. I mean, when it happens like it did in the Palisades, it doesn't really matter. But I imagine, like in a sort of smaller fire, it might make a difference. 'Cause we had rain barrels too that collected rainwater. I guess you could use that for irrigation or something. But, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think it'll be the same materials. Honestly, I understand why my wife wants to build, and my kids, because she's from here, my kids are happy in school here for the most part. My first impulse was like, "Well, let's get out of here. Might as well make the best of it and just start over." It's like, at least it'll be fun. It seemed to me more fun to, like, move to Connecticut or something, and rather than stay in LA and then kind of have what is obviously a makeshift living situation for a year or so. Why don't we just pretend like, "Oh, we're moving out of LA anyway?" Um, because my wife, her job is based in New York anyway. She works in finance, so she goes back and forth, and um we know a lot of people from on the East Coast that could help with schools and everything, but her point was, "I don't the kids are doing well, I don't wanna just, like,
Pick 'em up.
disrupt them, they're disrupted enough." And I
Yeah.
was just like, "What about me?" I had to agree with her eventually, but I don't know what insurance is gonna be like, or whether or not that's again, why I'd like to know why it happened, because is this just like, that's just nature? Is it gonna happen again then? Well,
Right.
then I'd think twice about rebuilding. I suspect I mean, I just have faith in human ingenuity. I suspect there's gotta be a way to build and not risk it all just going up in flames. I don't know what it is, but, because our insurance, everyone in my area had their policies dropped by State Farm. I mean, not dropped, just not renewed, so it depended when it was up for renewal. If you got lucky, it was after the fire, but, like, mine was not renewed in October. So I had great insurance I had really robust earthquake insurance, which is one of those things out here people are like, "Is it worth it?" I don't know. But for some reason, I was always like, "Well, if something happens, it's gonna be an earthquake." So I had this expensive earthquake insurance. the fire insurance was fine. Then we got dropped, and so if you get your insurer of last resort is the state plan. It's called the California Fair Plan, and, it's not that efficient. It's expensive, and you don't get that much. Um, and honestly, I am just thankful I got my act together to get a policy, 'cause I could see me just kinda, like, forgetting about it. That's one of the weak points that's one of the tensions in my marriage that has come to the forefront because of this, is my lack of organization with, like, paperwork, and ostensibly, I'm the one that deals with all that, and I generally do, but it's very easy for me to just sorta have my eyes glaze over, especially with insurance, and I know it's necessary.
Oh, yeah, I gotta call my
Yeah.
insurance,
It's like
home
it's
and
like a
whatever.
it's more interesting to do, like, well, to get a jet to research prepper stuff, like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a generator," and all that. That's kinda sexier and more fun to read about as opposed to, like, well, what kind of, how much do I lim what's my copay for, or whatever, my premium for, how many electronics do you have? But the problem is I did get it, I did buy it, so we had it in force, but, it's just we were underinsured like a lot of people.
Mhm.
So, you kinda lost some equity, took a hit there. That bothers me, that's kinda depressing, but again, it's like, I just try to think of, people literally losing everything in, like, older times, people when you hear about success stories, people, like, just going broke and then picking themselves up, and we're far from broke. It's just kinda like, we're rebuilding, and we're like, "God, I wish we'd had a little more to work with." But, who knows? My wife's got a good income, so, but, yeah, I just tried to think of people who, like I said, it's a training wheels thing. It's a good way to for me to, "Come on, toughen up," um, because there's not something so devastating that I'm gonna be sort of, or it doesn't really raise existential questions as much.
Well, if
Um,
anything, I think it probably answered a lot of existential
yeah,
questions, right, for you.
God doesn't care, and, God wants you. God, I mean, another thing is the fact that the whole town burnt up, and, my wife was, or one of her friends was saying, it's like, we've been living there, not necessarily that house, but in that area since we moved there, since my 17-year-old was, like, just under 2. And so my wife had built up this really strong network of mom friends, and she's still really tight with them. And so it's this idea of all your memories kinda going up in smoke. All of the yogurt place you went, the little ballet school where they took ballet when they were 5, the Gelsons. So it's just all gone. And it'll come back, but it is like everything just got wiped out, all these memories. And for my wife, these are memories that go back to her. She grew up in the Palisades in her parents' house that got destroyed. So she's a very practical, can-do kind of person. Like, I remember, years ago, like 15 years ago, her cousin's husband died suddenly. It was, like, a heart thing. He was, like, really great guy, everyone loved him. He was, like, 33 or something. So everyone was, like, shocked, and we flew to Chicago, you know, and my wife, as soon as she got to the apartment, was just on working on the phone, like, making arrangements, dealing with all of the practicalities of, like, because there's a lot of arrangements to make, and
Yeah.
everyone else was kinda too upset, and so she's always been that way, which impresses me. And even now, she's that way, uh like, just dealing with my kids, and making sure everything keeps going, keeps moving, and still working. But she has, yeah, I tend to be, sometimes it's so hard. There's a lot of paperwork involved in these
Yeah.
things, and a lot of things to keep track of. You can get various loans, and you're constantly hearing about, "Oh, this place is giving a 30% discount to people who lost stuff in the fire," or, "They're gonna give you a free mattress." And, I just really need to, make more lists, I think, because, I'm getting better at getting organized, but it is one of my it's like my Achilles heel, this sort of ADD tendency to just, get distracted and get really focused on something I'm interested in. and get bored if it's something too, bureaucratic. But you can trick yourself. It feels good to get things done, no
Sure.
matter how mundane, and it's funny, I've never had a problem with exercise because exercise, the payoff has always been so immediate for me just in terms of well-being that
Yeah.
I've never people who are like, "Yeah, I guess I gotta go to the gym," and just kinda, like, really struggling to make it a habit and struggling to get motivated, and I'm trying to apply that to other areas of my life, like writing, for example.
Oh,
This
don't
this
even start.
a
Oh
gir a
god,
girl
don't
a
even
girl
start.
just told me, she's writing she said, "You gotta get addicted. You gotta get yourself addicted to
Oh,
writing. You
oh,
gotta make it so that" she's like, "It's hard, but it can be done, I think." 'Cause it's like
yeah.
with the gym, now it's like, I feel like I'm on autopilot. I don't even realize I'm going until I'm there sometimes.
Mhm.
There's never this like, "Oh god, I gotta go to the gym." And I've learned often just to look forward to it and to be like, "Oh, I'm so glad I get to do this."
Yeah, I've gotten back into being excited about going to the gym, and I have continued to not be excited about writing.
Yeah, well, right, yeah.
Even though I am always, stoked about the end product with writing.
It's yeah, 2 different forms of discomfort. Somehow
Yeah,
the physical one is easier to deal with.
yeah.
It really is the discomfort, yeah, of writing is, and now I do a lot of editing, which I just sort of fell into, um,
Well, God
which I
bless you for that, 'cause I
well, yeah, I like it, in that, I mean, it's easier in a way. Like, I know how to make things, I know how things should sound, I think. I can see the problems, and, I think a lot of these young writers just simply don't know what they don't know. They must not read a lot, and it's feasible they don't read a lot of print or,
Mhm.
like, old-fashioned articles because everything's online. I mean, I still do a lot of article reading online, but I think I've talked about this before, like, you get a guy submits a 20-something submits a movie review, and it's like, you can tell they've hardly ever read any movie reviews
Right.
in their life, and I'm not saying I'm all for thinking outside of the box and whatever, but it's just like they don't have the basics of, I just try to explain, you gotta situate the reader, assume they haven't seen the movie, so kind of set up the premise without giving it away, set up the premise and then, start your review, um, and try to have a point, or try to have like a theme, just like, what's this movie about? And, it's just some of the stuff that, I mean, I guess it's good. Vomit draft and not being a perfectionist. 'Cause some of the stuff they hand in, I was like, I would never hand this into someone.
Yeah, I think
It's
well,
just
for
such
me
a
yeah, for me, the process, like, a vomit draft is really important, but I never would think of
yeah.
handing in a vomit draft.
You
But,
know
Matt, what's it called? I have to,
Oh, yeah, we've been
unfortunately,
talking for a while.
we were talking
I
for a little
I hope
while.
we hope we covered.
Talk about being distracted. We've,
Oh, dude,
distracted
I
each
I
other
could,
from
yeah, I
all
could
these
keep
important
going.
things we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But, Matt, I wanna thank you, so much, for joining me today. I'm gonna have links to all your stuff, and, yeah, uh, I'll be talking to you,
Yeah.
and,
Oh, yeah, we'll
we
be in
should do this
touch.
again for sure.
This was fun. I could have gone for a l yeah, thank you. This was great. Enjoyed it, and, I'll talk to you soon, Lou. Thanks for having me on.